It's great to be with you on this beautiful Montana Monday and provide some time for Q&A and to provide you some brief updates of what's transpired in the past week. We're in the final review of technical guidance that was offered by DPHHS with our guidance documents. We'll have that draft out to our district clerks and superintendents, directors that are responsible for CSCT in their districts later this week. A couple key points that we wanted to reiterate with you so you are keenly aware and can ask questions around this is keep in mind the negotiated rate with your third-party provider needs to be at least what the federal Medicare share, what their match for the state is. For example, 65% of whatever ends up being that per diem rate. Or if we're still in this process, then it would be whatever that per unit rate is when the bridge funding is completely used up. The district cost reimbursement will go up to the amount of your dollars that you are transferring to meet the state match. For example, right now is 35%. And our team is working on building that tool for you into Mayfairs that will hopefully help that process pretty simply. So we're pleased you're here. We've got some folks with us from DPHHS as well. And we're here to answer questions that you may have. So if you'll just hand raise, we'll put Jay and Dave to answering questions you may have. We would share with you that DPHHS, Megan will have in the next couple of days the amount that has already been committed out of bridge funding. So we'll get you that update. It's just going to be a couple days away. Yeah, Denise, go ahead.
Thanks, Cheryl. Hey, so it will be done through the Mayfair system. Did I hear you right?
So our goal is to get it to there how it used to be back in the old model. So we're looking at that tool to see how we can actually pull the details and bring it into a Mayfair's tool for our districts. So that's a work in progress right now.
Okay, but the process that you had described in previous sessions and then the guidance that was posted called for a payment to OPI for the district match.
Yeah, they will still have that match payment to make.
Okay, so that's not getting done through Mayfair's. A different tool will be provided in Mayfair's.
Yeah, so the idea again, Denise, is related to the expenses districts are incurring and their match to the portion of the state funding. So we're working if districts can get up to the example has been the 35%. Our goal is to get that expenditure detailed match.
Okay.
In Mayfairs for them.
Okay, I see. Great, thank you.
Great question, Jay.
The prior report that we used that was previously pulled out of Mayfairs, we don't think the CMS data had enough detail on it. So that's what we're trying to get to, is to make sure that we have more direct, identifiable expenses that are used for that CSCT program.
Okay, I barely caught half of that, Jay. I'm not sure if you're not close enough to your microphone or what, but I think I heard you say that it's just going to be the type of expenditures that's allowable is going to be worked out. Is that correct?
And the detail of those expenditures is what he was sharing as well, Denise, is that when that was disallowed by CMS before, it was because that detail was not specific enough to CSCT. So working to ensure that that's corrected. So as the districts are working with the OPI and school finance and the auditors down the road is that is clearly articulated and stable for all our districts.
Great, thank you.
You bet. So one of the things I would just iterate that's really important is we know how important these services are for children in Montana schools, and encourage you strongly to continue your services, and we will be working with you, and we'll be working with you and your providers to ensure that the services that need to be in play to serve Montana schools children are uninterrupted.
Okay, we have a raised hand from S. Jensen.
Yeah, so I work for the Helena School District. I do I am the Medicaid biller for the in-district stuff. I also keep track of all the CSCT teams income and outgo for the district. And Janelle, the supervisor, our district person, and I are just wanting to make sure through the flow chart that this is what I'm understanding. CSCT, our providers will still bill their claims. Those claims will be put on hold until we send OPI the documentation and the match. And then once you get that, they'll send that to Medicaid, or somehow Medicaid will know to release those claims. And the rest of the process then you'll check the claims, you'll check our documentation, that will be approved, the claims will be released, they'll be paid, and so on and so forth. Am I reading the flow chart correctly?
Jay, do you want to take that?
Yeah, so yeah, you're right. So when the Medicaid provider bill into the third-party billers will still go ahead and send that directly to CMS. And then the schools will get a remittance advice that will say how much the actual match liability is, and that's how much needs to be sent in. OPI has created what we're going to call a match leverage form that the schools will fill out. With that, they're going to want to include some specific documentation. Would have like a printout of your accounting system, so we can see that it's actually non-federal funds that are being sent in. And then also, like we talked about, having Mayfairs have that the report, so that we can actually verify that you guys have enough direct charges that we can identify that from the running the program, the CSCT program at the local level. And so once you guys get that remittance advice in, we'll send that into a check, and that will come directly to OPI. OPI will then verify, like we talked about, the actual funding source, and then making sure direct expenditures. And then we'll be getting reports from DHHS that we can tie into their claim system that shows, okay, well, this is how much actually needs to be paid, and so we can verify that. Once we verified it, we will release those claims, and we'll send DHHS a communication back, letting them know which claims to go ahead and pay, and we'll transfer that match money that came from the provider to DHHS. And then when the payment goes out, you'll receive the 65% that's coming through CMS to Medicaid, and then also that 35% of that $35 per $100 per diem rate coming back to the school. And then that's that piece we talked about in the past, where when you guys receive it back, you'll put that into Fund 15 using that specific CSCT revenue code to put that back in. You guys will make a payment out to the third-party provider for the service.
So you said at the very beginning that there'll be a remit. It's not going to look like the normal remit advices, or it will look like that, but with the match total on it?
Yeah, so I'll defer to Megan on that one, what they're going to look like. But again, it's my understanding it's still something that's coming out that you guys have seen in the past, but I'll let Megan speak to that.
Yeah, we're looking at the system changes that need to be made. So we don't know exactly what it will look like, but we'll definitely let you know when we have that level of detail, but it will likely be in a monthly report. And then one other just like clarifying point to that process in the flow chart. The school district is the provider of Medicaid for CSCT. So they're the enrolled provider and the provider of the services. And so while most school districts do have their mental health centers do the billing and send it into our MMIS system through DPHHS, the school district still is the provider.
Correct.
And that'll be, that'll be the same.
Okay, so they'll, the not the provider, but our CSCT teams, so they're Intermountain aware, they're going to still do the billing. And right now they do that. I go in and I check their remits and I send off a spreadsheet, if you will, to the county to let them know what funds belong to them and what funds actually belong to the school district for the billing that I do that has nothing to do with the CSCT team.
Yeah, and if there's any change on that coming forward as we transition this, you'll see that in the accounting guidance coming forward. So right now, there is absolutely no change from what you've been doing because we're not fully transitioned to where the districts are responsible for that match.
Right, but when that happens, the CSCT teams will still do their own billing and we'll check.
So if there, again, if there's any change to that, we will give you guidance to that. As indicated, we're still working out those final technical components.
Yeah, anything else on that?
Let's move on to Dan.
Okay, let's go to Dan Laughlin. He has his hand up.
My question is, again, after we get the reimbursements, about taking those reimbursements and what fund we need to put them in and how usable that fund is, if we can get it back into salaries or back in our general fund, for lack of a better term. But I mean, that's kind of scary if we don't have some flexibility with that. If it just goes into Fund 15, it's kind of like, you know, school districts that have marginal contracts, it could really hurt us.
Right, yeah, thanks, Dan, for that question. So, yeah, so I mean, the money needs to go in there. I don't know, you know, if Denise can speak a little bit to this as well, but, you know, having that money come back, your comment about putting it back to the general fund, that's something you can't do. And so you have to put it in that Fund 15, recorded as that Medicaid expenditures. Now, some of the flexibilities that fund can actually address, you know, that's something we could work on at OPI to give you guys some more guidance, but you know, I would even defer to Denise a little bit on that. She has anything. Yeah,
I mean, that'd be so helpful if you get some more guidance for us on that. That'd be so helpful.
Definitely, yeah, we could definitely do that. Yeah, and I thought about that the other day because again, I'm not really versed at the local level of school county. So like some of those flexibilities, you know, if you can take that and offset other costs within your operations that are related to CSCT, again, I think that'd be some additional discussions that we can have to clarify that.
Okay.
And then let me just reiterate one quick thing is that, again, when that money goes into Fund 15, remember that you can't recycle that money and use that to meet future match requirements. And again, so it still has some restrictions on it because we got to make sure that on your guys' accounting, that you've actually booked a non-federal source to actually send in that match money.
Okay. There's a question from Denise in the chat, or a comment about there's a reference to a flow chart. Is there a link to it on the website, or can I get a copy via email?
So that flow chart will be sent out by the end of the week as part of our guidance, updated guidance to districts. So we'll make certain you get that, Denise, and everyone else.
Dan, did you have any other questions? You still have your hand up. Okay.
No, I don't.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll be looking towards this next week of getting your district clerks involved and getting updated with a lot of questions related to fund uses as well as superintendents and any other folks from your districts that you want involved moving forward. So our goal will be to make certain that we've got you very confident and able to fully understand all of the elements of the changes that are coming your way with CSCTs and Medicaid, Medicare responsibilities being transferred to the Office of Public Instruction. So we want to make certain as your meeting matches, as you're identifying costs, as you're taking care of provider payments, that we've got you well versed up before you're starting to make match payments.
Yeah, Chad Berg, you have a question?
Yes, thanks. I really appreciate the last meeting that we had and sort of that move away from the 17%, 18% concept. I think this is a really positive direction that we're heading. Has there been any ability to provide some sense of an estimate of what potential match leverage amounts could look like for it? I know there is no typical school district in Montana. We're all pretty diverse, but for our ability to set any budgets, it would be helpful for us to know if we could reasonably anticipate meeting that full 35, or if we're likely to be somewhere lower than that.
Yeah, thanks, Chad, for the question. So can you guys hear me okay now? I mean, am I coming through clear? Okay. So again, we're working with school finance, getting some data that's getting pulled from the trustees' financial statements. I got some information on claims that was paid out in 2020 from Megan this last week. And so we'll go ahead and start and sit down this week and see if we can't come up with some type of report, like we were saying that we could put in Mayfair's, but even just kind of a general basis from a budget perspective of how close can we get to that 35% if we just kind of utilize the IDCs as the basis. So we're hoping to have something put together this week, at least something for you guys next time we meet.
Denise, you have your hand up again.
Thanks. And I'm sorry if this has already been addressed in prior meetings that I missed, but I was just curious about the bridge funding and how that's been working, if you have an estimation on when that will run out.
So we requested from Megan, DPHHS, if they could give us a report that reflects how much has been paid out to date. And I think Megan, you thought you might be able to get that this week. Am I correct on that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so as soon as we have that, that'd be something else we can either add in our communication, we can send something out directly to everybody.
Well, folks, we appreciate all of you joining us, and know that your time is incredibly valuable, especially this time of year. And we'll make certain Tristan has out to you a follow-up for your district clerks yourselves and any others that you want on the call. We should be able to have a pretty good Q&A next week, as we anticipate final guidance will come out midweek to end of week to each of you. So thanks for giving us of your time today. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.